being here with us today, for giving of yourself and your time and being willing to pour back into other people so that they can experience what you have experienced.
Thank you so much, Tam. I'm super excited to be here, and I'm just glad that you and I have been able to partner together. I know we are friends also in real life.
Yeah. In real life, yeah.
In real life. And I remember having a conversation with you less than 3 weeks ago, if I recall. It wasn't that long, certainly less than a month. I'll give you a month, but I think it was 3 weeks. And we had the conversation about this concept. It was just a just spur of the moment thing, and next thing I know, you got this whipped up. I was like, see, you follow her, because she actually is doing it now. She is moving immediately. So
yeah. You know what? And that's actually a great story for us to share with the audience. So Crystal and I have probably been friends for, I don't know, 10 or more years at this point. It's been crazy. We are both April babies, so we both celebrate our birthday. And actually, Crystal, your birthday is Tuesday. Crystal celebrates a birthday, so go ahead and give her some birthday love in the comments. So we started out as just friends, but what our relationship has grown to is, in addition to being friends, we inspire each other to do things, to step out of the box, and to make things happen. So yeah, I remember the conversation. I think we were talking about our birthday plans, our birthday party, and then we were talking about this idea. And you know what? It's funny, family. I was thinking, I was like, oh, that's a really good idea. And my mind started going to everything that I had on my plate and how much time it was going to take. And I was like, oh, maybe I'll do it in May. And then that's when the thought literally dropped in my mind, do it now. And that's where the name for this event came from, is I was trying to procrastinate. I wanted to put this off until May, until it was more convenient. But I believe that God ordained for us to do it now, so that while many of us are still in this space of hearing, we're still in this space of wanting to take advantage of the time that we have, that we needed to get in front of you guys, get this information that you need before things start going back to normal, whatever that looks like, so that you don't miss an opportunity to level up in your spiritual life, in your finances, in your business. So I had to take I had to take action too. And it's amazing. All of you were like, yeah, absolutely. I'll do it. So you guys jumped in the boat with me and said, let's make this happen. And here we are. And I can't say that it hasn't been without incident. I mean, there have been little bumps in the road here and there, but overall, God has been faithful. So let that be a lesson to you, family, that if you get out of the boat, when Jesus tells you to get out of the boat, that he will hold your hand, he will lead you and guide you, and you will get to where you need to be. So with that, let's go ahead and officially kick this off. You know, you have been on a journey yourself, a journey of transformation. There have been some setbacks. There have been some great moments. And I know I've told the audience that we're going to talk about real estate, but you do this in a unique way. So we'll talk about that. But I'd love for you to kind of share to start, kind of what inspired you to even get into the real estate business?
Well, for me, I was looking for a plan B. I know we've been talking about that throughout the session so far today, is a plan B, because my plan A had some leaks in it. And I'll tell you a little bit about my plan A. My plan A is exactly what everyone tells us to do, right? Go to school, get good grades, and get the job. And so I was groomed from a very early age as far as education is important. You're going to go to college, you know, you pick your career. And so I decided to go into engineering and technology. And I thought at the time I was good at math and science, but I also knew it would be a lucrative career when I got out, right? You know, a lot of people think, okay, if I'm gonna pick a major, let me pick something that I can make a living
I'm gonna get paid.
Right?
That's right.
Right? Let me get a little ROI back on these student loans.
Right.
And so I started that journey, and I did it. I got my bachelor's. I got my master's in engineering and computer engineering and technology. I got another master's. I got my MBA. So I was just racking up degrees, Coach Tam, and the student loans that went with it. But along
right.
right. And along the way, I found myself in my corporate job and I was super excited and ready to go. And after all these years of investing in myself as far as education is concerned, and then I got that infamous tap on the shoulder, say, hey, let me talk to you in the room. And I thought it was just a one-on-one with my manager, ended up being a two-on-one with my manager and HR, basically letting me know that my services no longer needed. Through no fault of my own, I was being laid off. And it was just it was kind of like the wool just kind of got completely pulled over me. At that time, I guess the naivety of knowing like, oh, okay, I'm going to go to school, get good grades, get a good job, and live happily ever after was just shook into the core. And so for me, I realized right then and there that I never wanted to be in a position where someone had the ability or the control over my life to dictate how much I can get paid, how much I'm worth on an hourly basis, when I can get paid, when I can take time off, when I can take my lunch breaks, if I can take a lunch break, all these different things. I realized I didn't have control and I didn't have true freedom. And so I started seeking freedom. And what freedom means to me is really being able to do what I want to do, when I want to do it, how I want to do it, and with whom I want to do it with, so I can help those that I want to help. And so if I don't have control over that, then for me, it just was an eye-opening experience that I need to make a change. So out of that experience, I started looking for a plan B and just kind of taking note of other entrepreneurs and successful folks. I realized that a lot of times real estate was a part of their portfolio. It might not necessarily be 100%, but it was certainly in the mix. So I started searching for real estate, found a number of mentors in the real estate investing industry, and really just kind of latched onto it. And along the way, just found other streams of income. And I started to realize like, oh, this is really true freedom, is to be able to have that cash flow so that if when I go to work, it's because I want to, not because I have
to. Wow, that is so powerful, that this dream that we're often sold, that there is such a thing as security in being employed by someone else. And this is no knock on being employed by someone else, okay? It's only saying, listen, that means they have 100% of the control if you do not have a plan B, if you do not have another source of income. So what we're going to be talking about today is going to benefit you whether you are employed somewhere or self-employed. It's all about, you've heard kind of a continual theme since we started earlier today, is diversification, having multiple streams of income. So this can work for you. So I want you to take note of what Crystal shares with you today and see if there's some nuggets that you can take away and maybe add a little diversification to your strategy. So Crystal, why do you think it's so important though for everyone potentially, thinking about, what your journey has been like and some of the hiccups that you've run into? Why do you think it's important, regardless of whether you're working full time or not, or looking to do this 100%, that you actually take action now on this?
I mean, there's no time like the present. Just practically speaking, you are the oldest that you have ever been in this moment. Meaning should be the best version of yourself. You have the most knowledge, you have the most experience, you've seen the most stuff at this exact point in time. And yet at the same time, this is the youngest you will ever be. So with that being said, that means if you have that dream, that goal, whatever it is that that you want to obtain, this is the maximum start. If you started now, you're going to have the maximum time to be able to implement that. Because you never really know what's going to happen. And so if you're not going to stand up and fight for your dreams, really, who will?
That's powerful. We talked about that earlier. You got to stand up for yourself. You got to show up for yourself, right? So this is about standing up for, showing up for yourself and taking action on your dreams. Now, I'm curious, Chris, I think it would benefit the audience, and I don't even think that we've talked about this before. What was the dream when you were growing up? Was it to be a real estate investor? Is this something that actually goes back to then, or was it something completely different then?
No, I didn't even know about real estate investing as a child. I mean, as a child, I remember I was watching like Indiana Jones movies. And so for some reason I had this idea I wanted to be an archaeologist, right? I remember
Wow.
the Doom and like that big ball. And for some reason I just found that so fascinating. In hindsight though, I realized it wasn't so much being an archaeologist, but I liked the travel. I liked the fact that they were exploring new areas. And so for me, I realized that travel and exploring new areas and exploring new peoples was very fascinating for me. But then along the way, practicality, you listen to the folks around you, whether it be parents or teachers or whatever, and you know they get what's realistic, right? What's that realistic? Not realizing that realistic for them is not realistic for you. So don't let anyone project onto you what is realistic and what your dream should be. But I started to look and say, hey, let me be a doctor. That's actually what I thought I wanted to do. I wanted to be a pediatrician because that was the socially acceptable answer, right? When you ask a little kid, what do you want to be when you grow up? I want to be a doctor. I want to be a teacher, a lawyer. Okay. And no one questions it at all. So I was socialized to say, okay, that's what I wanted to do. And so along my journey, I started going down that path, found engineering. And then I've realized that it was going to be lucrative, but it wasn't going to feed my passion. It wasn't going to like get me all excited to get up in the morning. And so I really just wanted to start finding a path that would allow me to do that.
Yeah, that's interesting. So in some ways, I mean, looking back, we didn't talk about this, but looking back, are you somewhat glad that that experience happened, even though it was very painful of, you know, having your position eliminated? In some ways, it propelled you towards your next, right?
Absolutely. I'm so grateful for that experience because it was very early on in my career, actually my first job right out of all of the schooling. And so less than 2 years in, I get this experience. And so it really just kind of helped me see very quickly that the corporate life for me of trying to just stay that as my only career, my only source of income for 30, 40 years in retirement was not going to be my path. And so I'm just super excited and glad that God gave me that experience because it opened my eyes, or at least made me be more receptive to other opportunities and other ways to build the lifestyle and that I want to build for myself and for my family.
Yeah. That's awesome. And before we talk, we're going to talk, family, about exactly what Crystal does when we talk about real estate investing, because again, the way that she does this is a little unique, or at least unique to me. But there's some commonalities to some things that you've heard about when Crystal starts talking that is going to help connect the dots. But before we do that, Crystal, let's talk a little bit about, I've personally been there. I've gotten the pink slip before. There can be a mental and emotional impact to that type of experience, and you got to get yourself together and claw out of that. In case there is someone out there right now that has experienced that, or feels like that is coming, how did you navigate out of that? How were you able to move on mentally and emotionally from the experience?
That's a great question because, like I said, it shook me to the core because I wasn't expecting it, and I had never been put in that situation before, so I really didn't know what to expect. So I'm human. I cried, cried for a bit because I was grieving not only the loss of the job, but also the loss of the ideal that I had set in my mind that this was the path that I was going to be. So my whole thought process was just shaken. So I had to rebuild. Okay, what does it mean to be successful? What does it mean to have a career? What does it mean to have a fruitful life? And so in that journey, I just started prayer. Absolutely, just talking with God, seeing what exactly He had for me as far as how I was supposed to pivot my life, reading books. Getting surrounded by mentors. They say that you're the average of the 5 people closest to you. So if the 5 people closest to you are negative or not really doing anything or complaining and whining, that can bleed over into you. But if you surround yourself with mentors that that are where you want to go, then you can start to follow their footprints to be able to move closer to where you want to be, rather than just wallowing in, your sadness.
I love that. So family, a couple of things that I heard there. Grieving is okay. And I think sometimes, especially in Christian circles, we Dr. Kim talked about the mask. We try to put on that, I'm too blessed to be stress face. But it's okay. It's okay to grieve. I love what you said, not just the job, but the dream that I have and what I thought it was going to be. So if you're going through something tough right now, it is okay to grieve. At the same time, what I heard you say is, okay, I got to ask myself, what am I going to do now? And you realize that there was a gap. So I need to read, to get exposed to different information that challenges my thinking, to step up. And I need to get around different people. That's been a constant theme all day. I need to get around people that are going in the direction that I want to go in so that I can learn and grow from them. So powerful. Now, let's talk a little bit about what you do and how you got specifically into this space. So you do short-term rentals within the real estate space. And before we talk a little bit about the details of that, help our audience connect the dot. When you say short-term rentals, what does that mean?
So most people think of it like the easy term is just say Airbnb. Most people, if I say that, we're like, oh, okay, I got it. Okay. Now, Airbnb itself is not just short-term rentals. And I don't want to confuse Airbnb with short-term rentals, because Airbnb is only a platform. There are many platforms that you can market your short-term rental business: Airbnb, VRBO, Furnish Finders. I mean, there's thousands of them out there. But the concept of a short-term rental is nothing new. It basically is housing that is available for someone for basically a shorter period of time than your traditional 12-month lease. Hotels are a prime competitor as far as what I do in the real estate space, but not even just hotels, extended stays, any corporate leasing. Anytime someone needs housing for a short period of time, and it's typically furnished, so everything is included, for a short period of time, for work, for family, for whatever reason, that is where the short-term rental comes in to fill the gap, because not everyone wants or needs a full 12-month lease.
Got it. So talk to us about how you got started in this, because like you said, you knew from experience in the conversation that you had with people that were making it happen that real estate was hot. But what made you decide specifically on short-term rentals as your focus?
Well, I love real estate in general just because everybody needs a roof over their head. Regardless of what's going on in the economy, you need shelter. And so as I started my real estate investing journey, I started doing my research. And I realized that real estate investing as a whole has so many different facets to it. It's not just buy a house and wait for it to appreciate to sell it. It's not just buy a house, fix it and flip it. I think those are usually the two main things people think of when it comes to real estate. But there's so much more. I mean, there's short sales. There's wholesaling, where basically you get almost like a finder's fee. You find it for a discount, you sell it to someone for uptick in a short period of time without doing anything to it. There's obviously long-term rentals, and there's short-term rentals. There's tax liens and there's notes. I mean, there's just so many different avenues in the real estate investing space that what I had to do was I had to understand what each of those areas were and then figure out which lane I wanted to be in. Because the thing is, a good investment for me does not necessarily mean it's a good investment for you. I have to take into consideration my gifts, my talents, my desires. What are my skill sets? And what do I even really want to do? What's gonna be fun? Because what's the point of doing it if you're not gonna enjoy it, right?
I agree 100%. You got it. We've been talking about that energy factor, right? If it's something that you hate doing, then you're not going to want to do it and you're not going to bring your best to it. So talk to us, how does a person get started in short-term rentals? Like, say someone's out there, they're listening like, oh, that sounds pretty interesting. What would be some of the early steps that they would need to take?
So one of the main things is understanding who exactly it is that you want to serve. I found in my business originally, I was targeting some of the travelers, the vacationers, you know, people who are coming in for a wedding or family reunion or that type of thing. Obviously, in this era of Corona, that has dried up very quickly and pretty much overnight. So I had to begin to pivot and add additional customer avatar, so to speak, to my portfolio. But there's people, like I mentioned, that are always looking for short-term rentals. So start looking at insurance people. I think Al had mentioned earlier, I heard in the other segment, she wanted to focus on elderly folks in multifamily. That's a great target demographic. So if you're interested in that, start researching now. Start figuring out how, like, what exactly do those folks need? Who is that person? What is their average income? What people do they have around them? What medical needs might they need around them? And then you start to figure out where you need to place your properties so that you can best serve them. Also start looking at where you can find income sources, whether it be from your own self-funding that you can provide from your own savings or 401k or IRA and other vehicles, but also working with others around you who want to partner with you. You'd be surprised so many people who want to lock arms with you once they realize what you're trying to do and the mission that you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, we're going to have to talk more about that, because I'm sure that there are people that are listening with us today that may not have a ton of money at their disposal, but this is something that they're interested in, and there's a path to do that. So we want to talk about that. But before we do, I know often the other thing that I hear when it comes to starting a business and all of these things is, and we're talking about real estate, so I feel like I'm going to have to qualify for a mortgage. So I'm concerned about my credit. Talk to us about that. Does that make as much of a difference as we think it does?
It doesn't. It certainly helps. So I'm not going to discount it, because certainly we all know that if you have good credit, that's going to allow you a lot more options that you would have if you don't. But a lot of times with this business, you can start with what you have, start talking with people that you know. A lot of times what I do and what I teach people to do is you start your business, and your business has its own credit that's separate from you as an individual. So when you start, you're starting with a business credit that is fresh, that is separate from what you're doing from an individual, and you can really start to build credit that way, getting lines of credit and all those different things as you start to build your business. And then also, again, look around you. Who do you know that has capital that they are not using? Who do you know has space? You might even have space yourself in your own basements, let's say, for example, or that extra bedroom, or a guest house, or I mean, there's so many different things I think a lot of people don't realize that are available and at your disposal, that are available for short-term rentals, because there's so many different ways that people are using it, not just for residences. Corporations use it as temporary workspaces. You think, 5 or 6 employees get huddled together for a work group session. You have film crews that are coming into town doing a film, and they just want to reserve a space for a set, a nice homey looking space that they're going to film in. I mean, so there's so many different reasons on why people would use them, and how you can get started with not that much capital at all.
Wow, awesome. So that's good news, family. You can get started even if you may have challenging credit. So Crystal can show you how to build that business credit, and you can get started with very little income. And we've got some questions coming in, family. I promise I'm going to get to that in just a second. Let's talk about the training and the skills that a person needs to be successful in this business. So you've shared with us, hey, I was trained as an engineer. I've got all these master's degrees. Does a person need all of that to be successful in short-term rentals?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
I just want to make sure people ain't thinking I got to have 2 master's degrees to make this happen.
Absolutely not. No. And in the concept, I think all of us really understand the concept of short-term rentals. If you've ever had, let's say, someone come over and spend the night at your house, like, you kind of conceptually, you understand, okay, they're going to be there for a short period of time. You prepare the place for them. While they're there, you kind of make sure they're comfortable and that type of thing. And when you leave, you kind of clean up after them and move on. I mean, in essence, that's that's it as far as if you're dealing with the residential side of short-term rentals. And so, no, you don't need the skills. I would definitely say do your research. Obviously, I will be doing some teaching, and then we'll talk about this a little bit later. I have a course, a short-term rental 101 course coming up actually next week that I can help people who are interested in learning more. There's a lot of resources online, YouTube, what I call YouTube University as well, other real estate groups. So again, it's really about partnering with people that you know. There's real estate groups even in Facebook as well, that you can learn a lot more about how to make next steps in your short-term rental journey.
Awesome. And we're going to get to some questions from our audience in just a sec. Before I do, talk to us about how lucrative this could be. I mean, what is the potential with this?
So, I mean, obviously it really depends, but it can be anywhere from hundreds of dollars extra a month to probably upwards to, $4,000 to $6,000 a month per unit. Now, of course, there's a lot of variable there based off the size. Is this a 3-bedroom house versus a 1-bedroom apartment, or is this a 8-bedroom mega mansion? So, I mean, there's a lot of variability there, and also who your target market is. If you're on the upper scale of income, like what I call like the Nordstrom target demographic, there's going to be a lot more probably margin than if you have the Target market or the Walmart customer, right? So there's different levels of who you're serving, what they're going to expect in their experience with you, and then what they're willing to pay for that.
Makes perfect sense. Well, let's tackle some of these questions from the audience. I love this one because it's so funny. I got a stack of books behind me, so I'll chime on this as well, but I think we should hear from you first. Vidya says, recommended reading, I have no idea where to begin. So people are hearing us say, and it's common, I hear it all the time, right? People that are millionaires, people that are successful are readers, but Vidya's question is, what do I read? So do you have any recommended reading for the audience?
Absolutely. I love my Audible account and books. I would say if you're interested in any type of business, I would start with Robert Kiyosaki. Not only from a real estate perspective, but even a business. One of my favorite books, he has 2 books that I really recommend. One is Rich Dad, Poor Dad. It really talks the mindset of moving from just the job worker bee mindset to having more of an entrepreneurial mindset. And so he talks about the dichotomy of his biological father, which he called his poor dad, who was wealthy as far as 6 figures income, but poor in that financial mindset, and his rich dad who's going to invest. So Rich Dad, Poor Dad is definitely top of the list. I would also say from Robert Kiyosaki, Cashflow Quadrant, my absolute favorite. He talks about, again, employees versus self-employed and how you build systems to be able to transition to the other side of the quadrant where you really start to have freedom, which is as a big business owner and as an investor. So those are 2 that I would highly recommend, like right out of the gate. And so, yeah, I definitely start there, not even just from real estate, but even just as a business journey.
Yeah, we might have to come up with a list. I think it might be interesting for the audience to see what we all read. Maybe they will gather something from that. I love that. The second question that I have is why, I missed one. How do you mitigate subletting guidelines with short-term property owners?
Absolutely. So at the end of the day, the owners are people just like you and I. So it's really about having a conversation. Everything that we do above board. So when I go and I talk to someone and say, hey, I'm interested in using your property for my short-term rental business, and this is who I'm serving, this is what we do, this is how we operate, they know immediately what we're trying to do. And I explained that if I was going to sublet, if that's the route that I'm going to do, what we call rental arbitrage, if that's the route that I'm going to do, that it has to be part of the lease contract in order to move forward. And if they're not okay with that, that's fine. That just lets me know that property is not right for me. It's not a good fit. It is a deal breaker because I have to be above board. I need to make sure that all the legal paperwork is in place to be able to make sure that I can operate the way I need to operate.
Yeah. So integrity, I think what I'm hearing from you is integrity is very important, right? So you have that conversation up front, say, this is what I'm looking to do. if we can't come to an agreement on this, then it's not going to work out, rather than, moving forward with them under the impression that you won't do it, and then it causing issues later. So I love that. The next question I have is why did you choose short-term rentals over buy and flip? And talk to us about your first investment. So
glad.
I remember growing up hearing the flip that house, and it's on TV and everything. So that's what a lot of people know. So help us understand, how did you choose to go this route, and what's the money investment like?
I'm so glad this question was asked, and thank you. I'm not sure who is it. Is it Chanel?
It's Chanel.
Chanel, coming through. I think she asked some good questions for the last presenters as well. So glad you asked. The reason why I chose the rentals over the fix and flip is because I was looking for consistent income. What I mean by that is, when you do a fix and flip, you do all this work, you sell it, you get a lot of money from it, but then you have to do it all over again. That's what a lot of investors in the 2007, 2008 crisis found themselves in. They were doing a lot of things, but once they sold that house, that income stopped, and then they couldn't get any additional mortgages and all these different things to continue that train. So really, I felt like, for me, that the fix and flip was more of another job. Really, it was just a job that I owned rather than the job that I went to. Because I'm looking for any type of opportunities, not just in the real estate world, but in business, where I have that residual income. Residual meaning I do something once and the systems are in place that I continue to get money month after month, week after week, just for the foreseeable future, rather than having to work for every single windfall that I get. So I'm so glad you asked that question.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Vita says, where do you go to find your clients? Where do you go to find your clients?
My clients. So when she says clients, I have a couple clients, I guess. So I have the owners that are, have the properties, right? And then I have my actual guests. So I'm assuming she's talking about my customers. Are you talking about the people that come to stay with me? Is that the question?
Vita, can you clarify for us? That may be. I'm guessing that's probably.
Okay.
Let's see.
Well, let's assume that she's talking about the people that come and stay with me. So there's a lot of different places. So when it comes to that, it's really about marketing. Just like any other business, you have to market. You have to bring in customers in order to have any type of revenue, right? So I do leverage platforms such as Airbnb, VRBO, the ones that I mentioned as well. But then because I have my own direct booking site as well, I'm not purely dependent upon those sources. I have to network with companies. Hey, I reach out to companies and say, hey, Bank of America, Duke, whomever, I see that you're in town, you have a work location near my properties. Whenever you have employees that are coming into town for a longer period of time, maybe they're working on a project, maybe a merger acquisition, something like that, and a hotel is just not conducive for a longer period of time, then these are options that I have. I also have network with insurance companies, because it doesn't matter what's going on in the industry. There's a storm that came through and a tree just fell through their roof. There's somebody that their house just burned down or just flooded. And so they need a place to stay because their primary residence is uninhabitable for a period of time. So those insurance companies work with me to be able to provide housing for those folks until their primary residence is back up and running. So there's so many different ways that you can go about marketing. I mean, Facebook groups, Craigslist, believe it or not, is still a thing. So, I mean, there's really just endless options. It's really about how creative you can be in targeting whoever your target market is.
I love that. And I've got to put a pin here because we haven't talked about that much, but you hit on something that is very important no matter what business you want to start. And I have learned this personally. You will not get away from marketing. Please hear me. Whether you are writing a book, or you have a brick and mortar business, or you're doing short-term rentals, or you're doing your business online, you must learn and master marketing. Because if you don't have people coming to you, you cannot be successful. So please hear me. You got to get good at marketing. That's where everything starts. When you agree, sister, if you can't market, it's game over, no matter how talented and how smart you are. That's right. You got to learn that.
it doesn't matter what your business is. If you can have the best food in the world, but if no one's standing in your line eating it, you will go out of business real quick. It doesn't matter
That's right.
how beautifully I've decorated the property. If nobody is sleeping there, you'll be out of business real quick. So yes, it does not matter. Marketing is absolutely key.
That's critical. Oh my goodness, we've got a ton of questions, and we are getting towards the end of your time. So what we're going to do, family, is we're going to try to tackle as many of these questions as we can, and then we're going to talk about how you continue the conversation with Crystal, because we realize, we just get started, right? There's still so much more that you want to learn, and man, Crystal is going to do something amazing for y'all. When y'all hear it, you're going to be blown away. When she told me, I almost fell out of my chair. Okay, so hang in there. It's good stuff. So let's see. We got a couple of questions here. If I have a house that is not occupied right now and I want to look into short-term rentals, can I use my property for that?
Absolutely. Like I mentioned, start with what you have. If you already have a house and it's vacant, definitely start taking a look at how you can use that as a short-term rental. So again, figure out who you want to serve, who would be the best market for you, and also what you're comfortable with. Because if this is a house that you're still living in, let's say if it's a room or something in there, do you want to have people in there with you or whatever? That's something to consider. But if it's a separate property and it's sitting there vacant, I mean, you're already paying on it anyway, you might as well figure out how you can turn that around so that it becomes an asset instead of a liability. So yeah, absolutely.
That's good. That's good. I'm going to do one more question. What are your thoughts on making a financial investment in larger real estate companies with diversified portfolios that eliminate you being involved in a day-to-day? So I'm going to invest in someone that does kind of what you do, and then I don't have to be, involved in the intricate workings. What are your thoughts?
I think I work with people just like that all the time, because there's many people that I work with who say, hey, I have an extra $10,000. I have an extra $50,000 or $100,000. I see what you're doing, but I don't want to do all that. I just want a good return on my investment. I don't have any
Right.
confidence in the stock market, or whatever. And so I work with people just like that. They say, hey, okay, I feel this is what we're doing. This is the ROI that we're providing. And we can show them how they can use that money to invest in some of the things that we're doing, short-term rentals, to get a return on their money that's different from what you normally see when you just hear of like put it in the bank and savings or a CD or stock market. That's usually like the top three things you ever hear anyone talk about: mutual funds, CDs, and savings. That's it. There's a lot more out there, people.
There's more. Yes, there's more.
But wait, there's more. Right?
That's right. Oh my goodness. There's so much here. And I know that, we are getting ready to transition to our next speaker, but I want people to know, because we can tell by the questions that people are interested in learning more. Talk to us. What is the best next step for people that have questions, they're interested, they're not sure where to start? What would be the best next step for them?
So next best step is, if you're interested in short-term rentals specifically, or even just cash flow, or specifically, I should say short-term rentals, I'm actually launching a free, it's free for you guys. Let me put it like that. Because you attended to this Do It Now 2020, on my link, thecashflowconductor.com, you can register for that event, which will be going on this time next week. So on Saturday, May 2nd at 1 p.m. So go over there, do it now, because we learned to do it now, right? To register for that event. But also, again, I know I like short-term rentals, but it's not the only thing I'm doing. So I want to make sure that people, regardless of whether you're interested in real estate or not, what the message I really want to say for you is just start looking at plan B, start looking at other options, because if you only have your eggs in one basket, then you're at financial risk, right? So you want to have those multiple streams of income, because if something dries up, you're not stuck without any income. You have other things coming in. So start looking, start reading, doing some research, check out my event next week, and just start, if you have any questions, reach out to me. I'll be happy to point you in the right direction, even if it's not toward the short-term rentals. I'm sure I can point you in the right direction for other cash flow opportunities that might be of interest to you.
Oh man, I love your heart. So family, in the chat, you have Crystal's website, thecashflowconductor.com. Go ahead, do it now. Head on over there because this is an amazing opportunity that Crystal is giving you. She's going to be retailing this program to other people, right? And they're going to have to pay for it. But because you are an action taker and you said yes to this event, she's going to gift this course to you. So she is sewing into you to help you get closer to your dreams. So we need you to take action now. Again, it's thecashflowconductor.com. Before we wrap up, Crystal, we've said a lot. I think it's always, and this is going back to my training background, right? People tend to remember most what you say at the beginning and what you say at the end. So if we were to put a bow on this and kind of condense this down to a few steps that you want people or tips that you want people to take away, what do you want them to take away from the time?
I would say, first and foremost, never have just one source of income. I think that's so regardless of whether you have a job or not, if you're blessed to still have your job, you are truly blessed, especially in these times. But don't just lean on just that one source of income, because when everything's good, everything's good. But when things are bad like this, you start to really see the importance of having a plan B, a plan C, D, and so on. So that's number one. Secondly, if you do have your job, use that as your first investor into your business. So use that as a way to start funding yourself and start looking for other opportunities. Thirdly, just take inventory of your skill, your talents, your desires, and what you're interested in, because not every opportunity is for you. So figure out what you like, what your true genius is, your true passion is, and then find opportunities that are in alignment with that, right? If you're interested in short-term rentals, certainly cash flow is the way to go. I say cash flow is so important, more so than just cash. Cash flow, just like the blood flow that goes through your body, is so important for your physical life. Cash flow is that important to your financial life. It doesn't matter if you just got the lotto right now and got $50 million. You think you're beset, but you see a lot of times a few years later, those lotto winners end up in a worse position than they were before they had the money because they never changed their mindset, or they never had a plan.
Preach.
So it doesn't matter. There's no amount of money that you can't outspend. So that's why cash flow is important, not just a lump sum of cash. And then whatever you decide to do, as you do your reading, do your research, as you partner with people and mentors like myself, whatever you decide to do it now. One of the things I've learned is that I love this analogy. It's like you have 3 birds sitting on a wire, right? One bird decides to fly away. How many birds are left on that wire? The answer is still 3, because just the fact that you decided to take action doesn't mean you actually took that action. And so we need to make sure that once you make a decision, now you take steps and actions that are in alignment with that decision so that you can get the outcome that you say you desire.
Lord, you're gonna make me run, and I'm supposed to be doing a session. Wow, was that good? Just because you make a decision doesn't change anything, right? You actually have to commit to taking action. And I see that we have some action takers here. We have Chanel, Sarita, Camille. Oh, wow, Paige. They're registering. They're registering over at thecashflowconductor.com. So, Crystal, thank you so much for who you are. Let me say that first. Thank you so much for who you are. You are a joy to me and a blessing to other people. And I thank you for being here to share your knowledge, your expertise, for being transparent, because that is highly valued, right? And I think that people's lives are going to be changed as a result of this experience. So thank you for being here with us today. Family, if this has been a blessing for you, please give Crystal a shout in the chat so that she knows that this has been helpful to you. And you heard her say that even if you're not sure that short-term rentals is for you, use her as a resource.
Absolutely.
So that's the benefit of being around people that believe the same things that you believe and are like-minded, is they're willing to help you and point you in the right direction. So use her as a resource to get to your next. Look at all the love. Great job. We got some claps. Thanks, Crystal. Awesome. if you can hang out some more and hear the other presenters, you are welcome to. We're getting ready for Mr. Jeremy Smith to come up next, and I pray that you enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you so much, Coach Tam. Thank you, everybody. You've made this birthday weekend a great experience.
Awesome. I'll catch you later.
All right, thanks.
All right.